Oh, how's it going for the second time today? Next, we have Noah May. He suffered from depression. Um, let's see. Let me try and read his bio. Oop, hi,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I was really struggling this morning. I struggled to get out of bed, and I always struggle before my podcast because I get so nervous. I have really bad social anxiety, but I'm feeling after my first podcast, I'm feeling like much more wandish.
Yeah, I had trouble waking up this morning too. It was a struggle, but I got up, so it's not been too bad of a
I'm
day so
so
far.
proud of you. I'm so proud of you for showing up because I know how hard that is.
Well, I appreciate you so much for having me. I can't wait to have our conversation today.
Yeah, and we're already live. I just did my little intro and I got a couple questions before we start.
Okay.
What is your favorite color and what is your favorite food?
My favorite color has been green, and then favorite food, it changes a lot. I don't really have French fries. I know it's basic, but I've always been a fry person growing up. It was always been my favorite thing. Um, yeah, French fries.
Okay, I like that. I had french fries last night. So tell us your story. Anything goes. You can swear, you can smoke, you can anything goes.
Alrighty. So, again, thank you so much for having me on here. Yeah, my story's not the best story of all. It's not the happiest ones, but my story begins when I was about 13 years old. I had just turned 13 at that point, I think a few months. Um, my grandmother had gotten sick with dementia and Alzheimer's, and so I was in eighth grade when this happened. So I was still in the right in the middle of middle school during this time, and she kind of got diagnosed with that major of a disease at such an early age, and it kind of took a toll on me just because of how badly she went downhill from there. Um, I went through a really bad depression spell, which at that time I didn't know what depression was. I hadn't been diagnosed at that time. I had
Now,
really,
were you raised by your grandma or she was just a part of your life?
she was a part of my life. My mom and I lived with my grandparents at the time. So we always, all four of us, kind of lived together. Um, my father wasn't around when I was growing up, and so my mom was actually sexually assaulted by him, and so she, after that had happened, she had moved back in with my grandparents, her parents, and we all four of us just lived under the same household. So she was really part of my life since I was a baby, and so it was harder to accept the dementia at such a at her age due to this how close we were and how we kind of were. Um, yeah, when she got after she got sick, my mood kind of changed very drastically. I went through a huge kind of a personality change. I was hanging around a lot of kids that were bad influences on me, that kind of what you would say in school, the rebellious kids that didn't really do anything and do well in school. They always knocked off. They kind of just acted up. It was kind of not a good crowd. And so I kind of also developed a really bad porn addiction during that time because I found it as like an escape from everything that was going on. So I got like a really bad addiction during that time. And then I was really slacking off. I also had suicidal thoughts during that time. Never acted upon them. It was just the thoughts that I had. Um, so I never really tried to attempt anything at all, but the thoughts were there. And so beginning of 2016, when and this was a few months after my grandma had gotten officially diagnosed, my mom, of course, caught me watching porn. I was dumb enough and watched it during the day, and she just kind of sat me down, and I just for about 2 hours, I remember just vented to her about everything that was going on, about how things at school were, how things at home were getting, and she kind of really understood where I was coming from. So she said, "Well, I think we need to go to the doctor. I think that's evident that we need to go." And so I went to my family doctor at the time, and he said, "You had depression without a doubt. You show all the signs. You show every alarming um, alarms. It was just you've got it. There's no guaranteed." And my mom also had depression at the time as well, or she had dealt with it, so she knew what it was and what it looked like, and it was good that she had it because I was able to kind of go and talk to her about stuff as well, and be able to open up to her about things that were going on at home, and just be able to talk to her because I knew she understand. So
How did it make you feel when the doctor told you that you had depression?
I don't really think I had like a huge major reaction to it. Um, it was kind of I don't know if I really showed any emotion. I don't think I really had like a thing of I was really sad that I had it because looking back at it, I don't think I showed any emotion in it. It was just kind of a, oh, well, I got it. It was kind of, well, this is just who I am. So, and I also have a thing called clinical depression. And the thing that people don't understand about clinical depression is it's hard to determine when it'll come and go. Um, it comes in waves. So I could have depression spells for a week and then not have anything for 3 years, and then it comes back for 3 months, stays gone for 2 weeks, and so it's hard to pinpoint. Since then, there are times during the year when it does spike just from everything that has happened to me. I have peaks where it kind of is prominent. Um, so throughout high school, from about my grandma passed away when I was 15, when I was just in high school. So she passed away when I was pretty young. I lost her pretty early, and so I was a freshman in high school at that time. And throughout high school, just from off and on, it was just this depression that would come in waves, and then it just really came in waves. It was someday the longest I think I had gone depression free was about a year and a half or two, maybe 2 years was the longest. Um, and in senior year, I remember the first of 2020 is when I got diagnosed with anxiety. I didn't know what it was. I knew what anxiety was because we had actually studied and learned about it in class. So I actually had a general idea of what it was. And to me, I thought anxiety was shortness of breath. You have tightness in your chest. You can't breathe. And but when I got diagnosed with anxiety, it wasn't any of the symptoms that I had. My anxiety came mainly from stomach problems. So I would get really nauseous to the point where I would actually vomit. That was kind of my way of having an anxiety attack. It wasn't the chest pains like I had learned and had studied. So when I first got diagnosed with it, or first saw that this was happening, we thought that it was the flu. We thought we just had some kind of sickness, and we went to the doctor. Until I was in and out of school for a month because the nausea got so bad where I couldn't even leave the house. I was like, well, I can't go to school like this because I don't want to be. The last thing I want to do is get sick at school. That was the last thing I ever wanted to do, and luckily I never got sick at school. But and I thought I'm not going to have that happen. There were times when I did end up having to go, and by the time I got there, I was fine. But it just in the morning, and this would always happen in the morning time, right before I would go to school, or in the middle of the night. Sometimes even both. And it was just weird. It was something I had never dealt with before, and it was something that I've never had pinpoint. So I was so confused as to what it was, what this. I thought we thought it was my depression, and I said, "Well, I've never had nausea, vomiting spells like this from depression, which is it's typical and common to do, but for me, it wasn't a thing." So we were just kind of really stumped at what it was. So we went to the doctor, and the doctor had asked me about, did you have you had any thing in your life happen to where it's triggering this? And I said, if it's school related, no. Because at that point, school was kind of difficult at the time because of one class, but I didn't think it was school related at all. I thought of all the classes I've had from kindergarten till senior year at that point that have been difficult, I can't say why now it's just happening. My doctor ran some tests, and he didn't see anything that was alarming. My tests all came back normal and fine. He said, well, if it is school related, let's see if it is. So he wanted me, he had me stay out of school that week. So I didn't go to school at all that week just to see if maybe the anxiety was from that. And lo and behold, it was. I didn't really have any huge anxiety attacks at all. So we went back the following week for a checkup, and he said, I've been doing some more research, and I looked into some more of the symptoms that you showed, and there are some cases where you do have anxiety, that it is common that some people have nausea spells and vomit to the point from anxiety attacks. Um, the depression is probably not helping at all either. And so he put me on Insure. From there on, he said, okay, he, we thought about homeschooling, and he said, if homeschool is what's going to help you and stop this, I'll be happy if you do homeschooling. He said, if you need doctor's notes, if you need a doctor's reasoning, I can give them a reason why you need to stay out. Well, luckily COVID had happened, so we didn't have to actually go through with that. But we, the the plan was to actually do homeschooling for the rest of the school year, which at that point it was March, so I mean it was just going to be 2 months, maybe even a month, give or take. So we luckily school had got out for COVID reasons. The school has shut down, and so but the damage really had already been done. The anxiety had really bad effects on me. My immune system was really out of whack. It was um, very poor. I got sick over everything the following year. I had lost 20 pounds during that time due to all the vomiting that I was doing. I had actually lost a lot of strength in my hands to where I couldn't really open up any kind of bottle. Um, it could be Coke bottles, it could just be milk or like drink bottles. I couldn't because of the rough edge. It would peel the skin around my hand up because of how much muscle and how much strength I had lost in my hands. Um, I actually had to end up using grippers to actually be able to open up bottles. So that's kind of how severe it got. I weighed 140 before it started. I weighed 120 by the time we had gotten a diagnosis done, and this was just over a month's period of time, which I always had a problem with weight, so this was not something I needed to have happen to me. Um, the doctor had prescribed me Insure at the time, and for people that don't know what it is, it's essentially a protein shake. It's a protein shake that helps you gain weight. He prescribed me to take one of those a day. He also put me on some really strong medication. Um, he wanted me to see a therapist at the time, and I was a little hesitant about therapy at the time, but I said, okay, I'll go to one session. And went to a session at like 7 o'clock at night due to the COVID restrictions. So it was a little odd going to a doctor's appointment very late in like close to nighttime. Essentially, it was something I had was not used to, but the anxiety had a lot of repercussions. It changed my outlook. Everything made me nervous. I had anxiety attacks for everything. It could just be running 5 minutes down the road to the grocery store, to the gas station, going out to someone's house, going hanging out with someone I'd known for 10 years, going to restaurants and eating. I mean, everything. My anxiety just, I had huge anxiety attacks for anything. And if something changed in the schedule, that would also trigger it. I mean, I had really bad repercussions from it. The the depression wasn't, I didn't have many repercussions from it, but anxiety was a huge, just kind of a hit to the face. It was just a setback. It was like trying to live a whole new life and trying to find a new life. Really.
And draining. I imagine it was extremely draining.
It was draining, and of course, being depressed or having all these anxiety attacks and not having go away, my depression really was bad. Um, there were times where I did think of suicide again during that time because it just got to the point where I said I can't take it no more. I can't do it, and no one in my life really cared much about what I was going through. No one really asked, because during that whole time when I was out of school for the months on end, no one ever reached out to me and say, "Why you not been in school? What's going on?" So I didn't really have any support during any of that except my parents at the time. They were the only support system I had. Everyone else was just worried about themselves and didn't really give two shits about me at that time. So it was just, well, I was always just a ghost with my classmates. I was just a spirit that kind of wandered the halls. No one really paid attention to me, so it was just when this came about, no one really was like stopping and dropping everything that they have going on to come see if I'm okay. It was never like that. So for about 2 years, I was having to live with the anxiety method. Um, I also had gotten diagnosed with COVID during that time. I had COVID for 6 months. I had the long term COVID. Um, the symptoms I really had were the no sense of smell or taste. I My depression, of course, spiked during that time as well because of how depressing it was to not have any sense of smell or taste. I mean, I got about October that year, I got sick with something that I couldn't really pinpoint. I thought at that point that it was a cold or allergies because I tend to have allergies really bad in the wintertime. Why my allergies spike in the wintertime when everything's dead, I don't know. It's just been something that's always happened. My allergies never tend to really spike in the spring and summertime when most people's are. So we thought it was just a cold or sinus infection that was going on. They did like a COVID test on me, but they kind of just did the inside of my nose. So they probably did about right here. They didn't really go far up in my nose, like you've heard some people say when they do COVID testing, where it feels like they touch your brain essentially
Hmm.
because of how painful and how far back they go. They just kind of did like the little end swab, which it still hurt. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not comfortable at all, anyways, but I didn't really go far up there like how most people said it was. Um, that test came back negative, so I thought, oh, I don't have it. Okay, so then we were like, okay, so then do you think it's like a sinus infection? Do you think it's a cold or what? And he said, well, you're showing signs of a sinus infection is what he thought. And so, but the thing was that I had not, at this point, had lost my sense of smell or taste. And that typically has not happened when I've had sinus infections. So that's why I thought I had COVID, because that was one of the huge symptoms that
Yeah.
COVID was at the time was if you can't smell or taste anything, it's COVID. Which at that point, anything was considered COVID. I mean, a splinter in your finger was COVID. At that point, it was like everything you had was it. So it was kind of, I'm surprised I just didn't get diagnosed with it anyways. But for about a month or two after that, it didn't go away. So we went back and he did some blood work on me. And the blood work showed that I did have COVID cells. I said, okay, then why is it that the nose swab didn't come back positive? Why is it I'm just now finding out about this now? And he said sometimes those tests can be invalid and valid at the same time. So I had gotten a dud one, or it was a something that failed. There's a terminology, I can't think of the word now, but something about it was a fluke or just came back wrong in our system. But he said the good news about it is that from what I can tell from the blood work, it looks like you're in the very ending stages of it. So you should be getting over this soon. Um, so that's kind of how I got figured out I had COVID, was from blood work, seeing that they had COVID cells that were in my bloodstream. Um, but then it wasn't until about March or April till I finally gained my sense of smell or taste back. So from October until March or April, that's how long I had it, was for that period of time. And of course, my depression was spiked up during that time, and then suicide came up again because it was just so. I got to the point where I didn't want to eat because there was just no joy in eating because I couldn't taste anything, I couldn't smell anything. It it was just such a thing that I just didn't want to eat. So there would be times where I would not even eat half the food on my plate. So then that in turn started going and affecting my weight problem again. I started losing weight during that time again because I didn't want to eat. Well, finally, after I got it, we went to a psychiatrist during that time because at that point I had just had enough. And this was about probably a year. End of 2021, 2022 is when I started actually going to therapy and going to a psychiatrist and everything. Because I said I can't do it no more. If therapy's going to help me and psychiatry's going to do it, then I'm just going to do it. The therapy sessions did kind of work a little bit. Some of the methods that we did do were helpful. Some of the methods that he had made me try to do, though, I've learned with people is that not every method that you learn from therapy for how to cope with anxiety is going to work. Even some of the methods that he given me don't work. I have a thing where if I'm having an anxiety attack and it's already at that point where you can't reverse it, it just has to run its
Course.
course. It has to run it. Nothing you can do can calm it down. Nothing you can say can change it at all. It just has to. The anxiety attack has to just do its thing, and then after I'm done, then that's it. So there, it it took a pretty long time to kind of get over that, but luckily though, I was able to get over that. My doctor at the time or my psychiatrist had put me on this anxiety medicine called, I want to say it was Zoloft. I
Okay,
think
that's
that's
what I
kind.
take.
So that it. I think Zoloft's not the brand, generic name everyone knows, but I think it's sertraline.
Yep.
Okay. So it's sertraline for like the medical name for it, sertraline, but the brand name or commonly known as Zoloft. So, she had actually prescribed me with that. Game changer. It was just like a huge 180 of like a lifestyle. It was kind of like how my old life was. I Everything was not even nerve wracking to me anymore. Um, we went on vacation that year, my mom and I, for summer. First time in like 2 or 3 years, I didn't have to get nerves going. Everything was just kind of like back to normal. I had luck going out eating out at restaurants again. I didn't have nerve anxiety attacks going to hang out with people. I mean, it was just honestly a God sent gift to me. It was such a huge relief to have kind of a reverse thing because I thought, well, this is just incurable. I don't have nothing or anything that will help it. And so once I got on that medicine, it was kind of um, my anxiety really diminished during that time. It actually had gone away. It wasn't really in the forefront anymore. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air essentially of like being able to live like the life that I actually originally had and kind of go back in. It was just really it was just really really good to um have it solved and be gone. So I was really happy that it had happened, and now it's still pretty much calm and tame. The depression nowadays comes and goes. It depression for me, I don't, even though I really want it to be curable, I don't think it is going to be. I think that's just something I'm gonna have to live with till I die. It's just gonna be something that's just gonna be a recurring thing. Um, but that's kind of how my mental health journey's been. It's not the best one, but it's something I've had to learn a lot from. But in the end, it's all worked out.
Love that for you. I love that you were able to find Zoloft and that being a game changer for you. Because I can resonate with so much of your story. Being like in high school, your grandma getting sick, the depression, not knowing what it was. Um, what about your journalism?
So the journalism career kind of started from when I was in a junior year. Everyone in my school was just doubling down on me, saying you have to pick a career choice. You have to pick something now, so that when you sign up for college, it's an easy process. I really at that point had no idea what I wanted to do. I was just like stuck. I thought I don't know what I want. I just had no clue, no idea. I wasn't really had no idea about what I wanted to do at all. And so um I remember that year I started watching, or like a few years earlier I started watching Ellen. I had watched her talk show in the afternoon. I always would watch it after school. One day I just remember watching it and saying that to myself, that's what I want to do for a career. I want to do that. How do you get into that kind of career? So I did research, and I started doing. I found that to be a talk show host, you had to have a career in journalism.
That's interesting. I never would have thought.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was like with some shows, some people that do like the interview styles have degrees in journalism, and that's kind of where journalism comes from. Is from interviews. So I mean, it made sense, but I had never heard of that. So I said, okay, then I'm just gonna go into journalism. So that's what I actually signed up as. I said, um, I went when I signed up for college. I said I want to go into journalism, so whatever, um, or I want to be a talk show host. So I'm signed up for journalism. So that's kind of how I started. It's been an interesting road right now. It's been very interesting. I've had it's been it's been a journey, kind of learning how to find my voice in a way, and I've really enjoyed it. So that's kind of how the journalism kind of came to be. It was just kind of from a kind of a message from, or just watching Ellen and just looking online to see what field of choice talk show was in, and that's kind of how I got into journalism, was just from watching her show.
Have you ever thought about podcasting?
At that point, no. Um, I I really podcasting to me wasn't as popularized as it is now. Um, this was like 2019, early 2019. So podcasts were, even though podcasts were around at that time, it was still kind of fairly new, and not a lot of people talked about it. So podcasting at that point really didn't start, or was in the forefront. It wasn't until about 2021 when I started really starting to do podcasting and everything, or just the general idea from it. I woke up and one day and was just like, I want to do a podcast.
Oh, so you do podcasts.
I do podcasts, yes.
Oh,
Um,
what's it called?
it's called Lethal Venom. I've been doing it for, um, which I have 3 podcasts. So I mean it, but the main one that I focus on is the Lethal Venom one. Um, I've been doing it for, well, there's a whole story in itself how it came to be. So I took a podcasting class at Auburn because they actually were offering a podcasting class that was new, and I said I want to be first dibs in that class. I thought it was a sign that I thought, oh, well, I've always wanted to do podcasting, or at that point had an interest. I thought this is just meant to be. It's a sign. So I ended up being was able to get into the class. I was actually able to sign up for it, and I was just really I was kind of shocked that I got into it because I feel like a lot of people were probably signing up for it. Um, so I went in there, and one of the assignments that we had to do was pitch an idea to the class of a podcast idea. So it's sort of like it was sort of in regard to journalism where you're doing like an elevator pitch. For people that don't know what that is, it's kind of like pitching an idea to a group of people. Essentially, what it was. Um, I went to the class and at that point had a book podcast in mind because I was an avid reader at the time, which I still am, but just I didn't really get chances to read as much as I was able to at that point. But at the time, I was a huge reader, and so I pitched that idea. But Lethal Venom kind of came at as a more of a personal episode podcast. I even pitched that one too, which at the time didn't have a name, and some people were kind of like iffy on it. Some liked the idea, some didn't. But it was one of those moments where you kind of just look at it as a, I did the podcasting. It's my podcast. I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. I'm not gonna listen to really the critiques of it. I'm not gonna really put all this. I'm just if they say something negative, I'm not gonna take it to heart. Is initially what I was going with. So I said, okay, y'all can have y'all's opinion, and then I'm just gonna do with my own at that time. So I had actually gone and did some more research about it because even after I had gotten out of the podcasting class, um, so it took a lot of studying, and then finally once I was able to get really everything finally planned and figured out, it kind of just went live. So after I graduated, I was actually able to really focus on this show and on this podcast more because I didn't have to worry about schoolwork at all. I didn't have to worry about anything at that time. So it was kind of that. So about February this year, I started posting. My first episode I posted middle of February, and I kind of posted a little bit here and there, but I kind of post now weekly. Now it's kind of a more of a weekly based show. So I've been posting on there a lot now. I do basically podcast interviews through Podmatch now.
Okay. I
I've
was gonna
had
ask if you do it by yourself or do you have guests?
at first it was just a solo show, um, but funny enough, the founder of the Podmatch site, Alex, had actually emailed me and said that he had actually found my podcast somewhere. He had listened to an episode, thought that I would be a good fit for the platform and for the network, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of the network. And at that point, I had gotten a lot of scam emails at that time for like job offers at that point. So I was hesitant about it. I said, oh, this is just another scam. But I thought, well, it's podcast related. Maybe it's a sign. So I looked up Podmatch. I did all this research for it and I didn't really find any flukes in it. I didn't see any red flags of the platform, no bad reviews, negative things about it. So I thought, well, maybe it is actually a legitimate thing. Um, So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So I signed up for it, and honestly, it was probably the best decision I've made. Honestly, the best thing I made. Um, Now I've done about 100 interviews from all
Wow.
all people. Yeah, it's been a lot of interviews that I've done, and just like the short period of time, he messaged me end of, well, it might have been beginning of, I can't remember if it was the end or beginning of May. I think it might have been, it was sometime in May, and then I'd signed up for that then, and then I'm gonna have to go back and look at emails and stuff, but signed up essentially right at the beginning of summer, and then I've been on the platform for a few months now, and yeah, I've done over 100 interviews, and it's just I have more to go after that. But it's been such a um, huge rewarding thing. So it's now kind of a job, even though it's most people could say otherwise. I do get paid to do
No,
it.
I would say that it's a job because you're investing your time, your energy. I think it is considered a job, but I know what you mean. Would you say that it helps your mental health too?
It does.
Or do you
Even
get really nervous, like still? Like, do you get really nervous before you do an interview? Or did you used to? No, I get so extremely nervous.
I think I think at first I did. Um, I think at first I got nervous because it was the first time I had interviewed people. Well, which at that point I had already done journalism classes where I did have to just go up to random people and have to interview
Okay.
them. So I did have prior experiences when it did come to interviews, and I had some experience with public speaking. So it wasn't a huge nervous thing, but it was something to get used to. Um, but after doing 100 interviews, it's just like nothing to me anymore. It's like I've done so many, and it's good practice for what I really want to do with my career. So it's good that I'm getting this experience in now because it's building up a really good resume for me to look at and be like, yes, I've done about over 100 interviews so far. So it's really helping with the experience of wanting to be a talk show host, which I've told people if this was just my job and this is what I was meant to do, then I would not be mad at that. I've had a really good time doing this. It's been fun doing it. I've had a great time. So in the end, if this is something that I was just meant to be doing, I would not be mad at it.
I love that. I love that for you. Um, and one of your questions is, what advice do you have for upcoming journalists?
I would say you have to have a lot of tough skin when you're in as a journalist too, because not everyone's gonna want to have an interview done. It's more they. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it without being unprofessional. People really, people really don't really respect journalists a lot, really, because they see us as like picky or like very much
Nosy?
nosy. Yeah, nosy and getting in our business. And a lot of people just flat out tell you no. And one of the things that you have to learn about it in that field is you have to have really tough skin. You can't let every little thing and everything make you sad and bundle up into like a ball and cry. You you're gonna get haters, and you're gonna have people that like what you're doing, and you're gonna have people that hate what you're doing. Um, Also, be smart when it comes to relaying information. Journalists really tend to have the huge um, we get the main hate towards us for fake news and like false information getting out. Um, that's usually falls in it. So if you're doing reporting before you post anything, or if you publish a story, make sure that if you do have a story that's based on facts, that they are correct and that they are that, because if you share false information or you share false details about something, people tend to really get offensive and offended over that. So just be sure that it happens. But yeah, just and another thing, that the biggest lesson I've learned is that when you're doing interviews, don't interrupt the person that's interviewing. Um, if you're doing an interview and they talk for 20 minutes, let them talk for 20 minutes. From what I've learned, some teachers say that you need to blurt in. I see it as rude. Like, from what I've when I've been doing the podcasting, I've had people that I ask a question and they talk kind of like I have for 20, 30 minutes, and the host doesn't interrupt or anything. That's kind of what you have to do, is let the guest talk and all that. And if you're the interviewer, you have to just sit there and let them say what they want to say without interrupting. Because if you interrupt them, that kind of shows a lack of professionalism, and it can be considered rude to some
Okay.
people. So that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned, is to let people talk and not interrupt them from interview. But it's a hard field too, so I wouldn't say that you're going to immediately get a job in journalism right away. Um, it will take time because it is such a difficult field to get into it. But um, start early in college and build that resume up, and that resume will help go a long way.
And probably one of our last questions is, why are you so vocal about your mental health journey?
I am vocal because people silenced me for years from it. I never had the chance to really showcase and share my story. And men tend to typically be the ones that never share it at all, because society has it to where men are supposed to have the tough skin. They're supposed to have this very bold image of nothing gets me down, nothing ever makes me depressed. I'm supposed to be the man of the family, strong, nothing get tears me up. And in actuality, that's not true. It, a lot of men do suffer from mental health disorders, and they don't get a chance to open up because they're afraid to be ashamed of it, because it'll show them that they're weak or soft. So I've been vocal about it to show men that you can be vocal and open about it. I mean, I've said anything and everything about my mental health journey with other people. I've shared my own experience on my show about it. I've shared that, I've griped and complained about just simple things too. It's not been, oh, I had like this awful breakup. I've talked about just like getting a cut on myself, or I would like twisted my hand away, and I've ranted about it. I mean, it's been a thing where, if you're going through something, speak up. Don't keep it bottled up. So I'm vocal about it to show people that you don't have to be scared, and you don't have to be kind of afraid to open up, because if you keep it bottled inside, it will really eat you away, and it'll end up having really bad, severe repercussions from it. So I've always been vocal about it so that others can be as well.
Well, I appreciate you so much and sharing this space with me. Is there anything else that you want to say to our audience? And also, what platforms can we find your podcast on?
Yeah, one thing that I would say is, for people that have mental health disorders or anything, I don't want you to feel kind of ashamed or feel bad about it. So everyone suffers from some kind of mental health disorder, and if you're listening, you don't have it, that's awesome. I wish I didn't have it, but I do, and it's something I can't control. And I don't want people to think that if you get any kind of mental health disorder that it's the end of the world. It's not. Just keep fighting every day. It gets better. You'll have good days and bad days. I've had good days and bad days. Um, but just being open about it and just sharing your opinions will really help you get that. Yeah, my podcast, Lethal Venoms, wherever you get your podcast from, it's on all the major platforms. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Pandora, as well as like other platforms. So essentially, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's more than likely there. You can also follow it on Instagram and TikTok, Lethal Venom Podcast on there, and then I'm on Facebook and Twitter as well. It's at Noah's Podcast. So feel free to just follow those any of those platforms to keep updates on the podcast and what I have going on.
Okay. Is it on like at a certain time every week,
It's
or does it
it's
vary?
not. It varies. I do post at least an episode weekly. So
Okay.
um like I think last week I posted about 5 episodes only because
Wow.
I'm so behind, so where I got a lot of episodes kind of back stocked, so I'm trying to play catch up. But yeah, I do post at least one episode a week, so it's usually a weekly show. But yeah,
And for myself, like I have a question. Like, do you do you record yours or do you go live? You obviously record yours. Is there a certain reason that you do that? Do you find it easier?
yeah. The thing with me and going live is that my show is very much a truthful show, and so I know a lot of people um, go on there and they might say something personal that they don't want the real name out. It's really hard to kind of keep confidential things real private when you're live because there's no way to
Edit it
edit it
out.
out. I always censor and bleep all personal information out. So I found recording a way to be great, and recording always makes it or going live. People have to come. They feel like they have to come dress up. I literally have come on shows with a t-shirt on, and I'm like the most comfortable I am. So I make the podcast kind of, since it is such a very truthful and kind of a deep show. I always like my guests to be very comfortable and kind of calm. So having it being recorded, it's not that they don't even have to worry about video. It's just an audio podcast.
Oh,
So
okay.
they don't have to worry about being camera ready. They don't have to be have makeup on or anything. It's just kind of a laid back show. If they want to drink wine or drink anything during it, they're more than welcome to. If they move around a lot, they can. So I mean, I try to make it as comfortable as I can. Since we do talk about heavy stuff on there, I always try to make it the most calming and the most appropriate
That's very
setting for them.
helpful. That's very helpful for me. I'm very proud of you, and I have so much respect for you for your journey. Um, and thank you for sharing this space with me.
Well, thank you for giving me the platform and letting me share my story with your listeners. And just thank you so much for having me on. It was such an honor, and I had a great time.
Thank you so much.